The Stanley Cup, hockey's greatest prize. The Stanley Cup, hockey's greatest prize. Focus question. Why is the Stanley Cup the greatest prize in hockey? Hockey's greatest prize. It's Game 7 of the 1996 Western Conference Finals between the Detroit Red Wings and the St. Louis Blues. The winner goes on to compete in the National Hockey League (NHL) playoff finals. The game is tied 0-0 in the second sudden death overtime period. Tension could not be higher as Detroit captain Steve Yzerman picks up the puck at center ice, dashes to the blue line, and without warning, crack, blasts a thundering slap shot past the St. Louis goalie. Suddenly, all the air in Detroit's Joe Louis Arena is sucked out of the building as tens of thousands of Red Wings fans erupt in cheers at one of the most exciting goals in hockey history. Lord Stanley's Cup. Every year in October, talented athletes lace up their skates with a single goal in mind, winning the greatest prize in men's hockey, the Stanley Cup. By the time the regular season is over in April, the real season begins. The Stanley Cup playoff season is the most exciting time of the year for hockey fans as players skate, shoot, save, check, and fight for the coveted Stanley Cup. The Stanley Cup is named after Lord Stanley of Preston, who was the Governor-General of Canada from 1888 to 1893. Lord Stanley first saw an ice hockey game played at Montreal's Winter Carnival in 1889 and instantly fell in love with the sports. He decided that there should be a trophy awarded to the top team. The cup was made in 1892 and called the Dominion Hockey Challenge Cup. It was awarded to Canada's top amateur ice hockey club. In 1915, two professional hockey organizations agreed that the top two teams in their leagues would play for the cup. In later years, new leagues formed, others folded, and still others merged together. In 1926, the name of the cup changed to the Stanley Presentation Cup. In 1947, it became the Stanley Cup. At that time, there were only 6 teams in the NHL from Toronto, Montreal, Detroit, Chicago, New York, and Boston. They all still play in the NHL today. Historians call them the Original Six because more teams joined the league later. The original cup was made of silver. It was 7.2 inches, 18.5 centimeters tall, and 11.4 inches, 29 centimeters in diameter. It was placed in the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1963. A replacement cup is used today. Hockey is the only major sport in North America that does not make a new trophy each year. The winning team keeps the cup until the next season is over. The cup has 5 bands, and all the winners' names are displayed on the bottom band. When it is full, the top band goes to the Hall of Fame and the others moved up to make space for a new band at the bottom. The road to the Stanley Cup. The road to the Stanley Cup is long and difficult, but hockey fans wouldn't want it any other way. The current 30 NHL teams are split into 2 conferences, Eastern and Western. The Eastern Conference has the Metropolitan and Athletic divisions, while the Western Conference has the Central and Pacific divisions. The top 3 teams in each division automatically make the playoffs. The remaining spots are filled by the next 2 highest-placed teams in each conference. Once the playoffs begin, teams must go through 4 best-of-7 rounds in order to win the cup: the conference quarterfinals, the conference semifinals, and conference finals, and lastly the Stanley Cup Finals, which pit the Eastern Conference championships against the Western Conference champions. If only the cup could talk. The Stanley Cup playoffs are some of the most competitive playoffs in all of sports. It's no wonder that when the winning players finally get their hands on the cup, they can get awfully excited and silly. In the 100-plus years of its history, the Stanley Cup has gone through a lot of wacky adventures. Clark Gillies of the New York Islanders let these dogs eat out of the Stanley Cup. Tampa Bay's Andre Rowe used the Stanley Cup as an engagement ring barrier. 3 different teams have thrown the Stanley Cup into a swimming pool to see if it floats. It does not. Notable moments in Stanley Cup history. 1928. Coach Lester Patrick replaces injured goalie. The year was 1928 and the New York Rangers and Montreal Maroons were battling it out in Game 2 of the finals. But when New York goalie Lauren Chatbot was injured, he had to leave the game. In those days, it was rare to have a backup goalie, scrambling for a last-minute replacement. Rangers coach Lester Patrick asked the head coach of the Maroons if he could use star Ottawa goaltender Alec Connell, who was watching in the stands. Wanting to keep his team's huge advantage, Maroons and coach Eddie Gerard said no. Patrick's players came up with a solution and asked him, "Coach, why don't you go in the net? We'll play extra hard if we know you're in goal." Moments later, Rangers coach Lester Patrick skated onto the ice in full goalie gear. The 44-year-old coach was a retired defenseman with very little goaltending experience. However, the Stanley Cup was at stake, and he had no choice. Before hitting the ice, he told his players, "Boys, don't let an old man down." Remarkably, Lester Patrick saved 19 shots while only allowing 1 goal to help the Rangers win in overtime. New York would go on to win the Stanley Cup, and at the age of 44 years, 3 months and 9 days, Lester Patrick became the oldest person ever to play in a Stanley Cup final. His record and the legacy of this game live on today. 1942 Toronto Maple Leafs versus Detroit Red Wings. It was the first Stanley Cup final of the original 6 era, and Toronto faced the ultimate odds after losing the first 3 games of the series to Detroit. In Game 4, Leafs coach Hep Day had to shake up the team. He benched 2 of his star players and replaced them with rookies to make the team work harder. His plan worked. The Leafs ended up making an amazing comeback and won the next 4 games. This instance was the first time a team came back from a 3-game deficit in the Stanley Cup Finals. When Leafs player Guy Stewart was asked about the series, he said, "Only one word comes to mind: phenomenal." 1970 Bobby Orr's legendary diving goal. In overtime of Game 4 of the 1917 Stanley Cup Finals, the Boston Bruins were trying to win against the St. Louis Blues 4-0. Bruins captain Bobby Orr found himself in front of the St. Louis net after passing the puck to teammate Derek Sanderson, who then passed it right back. Orr took a shot at the loose puck, and just as he watched the puck cross the goal line, he was tripped by a St. Louis defenseman. The combination of being tripped and Orr's excitement caused him to fly into the air like a superhero. Photographer Leigh Lucier snapped what many people said is the most famous photo in hockey history, as Orr flew through the air with his arms extended in celebration of winning the cup. The Legend of the Octopus. Hockey is known for having some really weird traditions. None are as weird as the legendary of the octopus. The legend began in Detroit on April 15, 1952, during the Red Wings Stanley Cup playoff run. In those days, there were only 6 teams. In order to win the cup, a team had to win 2 best-of-7 series, 8 games in total. During one game, 2 Detroit fans threw the body of an octopus from a seafood shop onto the ice, 8 legs for 8 needed wins. Detroit ended up winning that year, and the octopus was considered good luck. This strange Detroit tradition continued for years. In one 1995 games, fans threw 36 octopuses onto the ice. In yet another 1995 playoff games, Two fans tossed the 38-pound, 17.2-kilogram octopus onto the ice. The next year, a 50-pound, 22.7-kilogram octopus is thrown onto the ice. This strange tradition continues today. Stanley Cup Dynasty, Edmonton Oilers. The Edmonton Oilers could have been mistaken for an all-star team from 1983 to 1990, led by the great Wayne Gretzky. The team won 5 Stanley Cups during those years. Gretzky was so dominant that Boston Bruins coach Terry O'Reilly once said, "He's the best. There should be a league rule that he has to be passed around from team to team every year." Gretzky wasn't the only Oilers star, however. 6 other Oilers players from that era were also inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame. Years later, the team was officially awarded Dynasty status by the Hockey Hall of Fame for its long string of wins in relatively few years. No team has achieved Dynasty status since. The Isobel Cup. The Isobel Cup is another major hockey prize. It was named after Lady Isabel Constance Mary Catherine Hardy, the daughter of Lord Stanley. She was one of the pioneers of women's hockey. The Isobel Cup started as a trophy for the best amateur hockey team. In 2016, it became an award for the best professional women's hockey team in North America. The best game you can name. Every year, hockey fans from around the world drool over the idea of their favorite NHL team winning the Stanley Cup. For more than a century, players have skated, scored, saved, checked, and fought for the chance to drink from hockey's greatest prize. You never know what will happen in the Stanley Cup playoffs. No matter which team ends up winning the cup, the true winners are the hockey fans around the world.